I don't have the list. And we are on the air with Let's Talk Call-In Radio. Take it away.
Here we are. Yes, here we are. This is Let's Talk, a community forum that believes your voice matters and welcomes all thoughts and views without judgment. Please join today's conversation by calling 415-663-8492 or 8317. And your co-hosts in the studio today are Shelley Rugg.
Hello.
At the controls, controlling the starship. And Sally Phillips over there.
Good morning.
And myself, I'm Paul Raffel. Now, when you call in, and you will call in, won't you? Yes. When you call in and hear it ringing, hang on. You'll hear a little noise as Shelley puts you into the system. Wait till you hear her say, "You're on the air," and then please give us your first name, turn your radio down, and please keep the language clean, because this is live radio. So, today, let's talk happiness. Why? Well, it's a small topic, you know. There's nothing to say about it, really. But, no, it was suggested by Stephen Hurwitz, who is usually a co-host on this show, and he is not here today, so, you know. But the first thing that occurred to me is that it's in the Constitution.
Uh-huh.
Before anything else, it says it's human rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, that was taken from John Locke, an Enlightenment philosopher, who actually wrote Life, Liberty, and Estate, which is property, or sort of the just desserts that you get for living a busy life, or the rewards of your labors, let's say. Let's put it that way. And I think the founding fathers, slave owners that they were not all that, didn't want to have the word property in there, because that might imply that everyone was entitled to a piece of land or something. So they changed it to pursuit of happiness. So in their minds, happiness came from your labors, from a life of work, and what you could garner from that. That's a place to start. Is that happiness to us all? I mean, is it dependent on what we do? Does our happiness depend on what we do for, let's say, a living, for putting a roof over our head?
Well, if that's the case, I don't know how many people are happy.
Exactly.
For me, it was kind of a guidepost. I wanted the work that I pursued in life to be something I actually enjoyed doing. So I use that as a guidepost.
I feel like for most of the world, that's not a choice.
Elaborate. What do you mean? You mean people have to do whatever they can to make a crust?
Yes.
Yeah.
So how do you cultivate happiness in that situation?
In community or spiritual, your soul, finding it in your soul, or in ritual, or I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm in the bubble. I don't know.
Well,
I mean, I've been able to choose what I do also, but I've tried to remain quite aware that is the supreme luxury, like the face cream I
to be able
put
to
on.
choose
It's luxurious
what
face
you-
cream,
luxurious face cream.
The batting of the eyelashes.
which hopefully makes my skin happy. But no, it is.
You're the privileged few.
Yeah,
here.
yeah, exactly. And so you can't. I mean,
I think you do need to sort of cultivate happiness. You can't wait for it to come and just sit in your lap and say, "I'm here."
Oh, but so you have to consciously seek it out, or you have to
Yeah,
do
I think so.
something that makes you happy. You can't just be happy.
Well, there's a certain amount of being, the beingness that it's, ideal if it makes you happy. Well, we have a caller. Caller, you are on the air. Please tell us your name.
Good morning, everybody.
Good.
It's MK in Seattle.
Hey.
Hello, MK.
And I'm thinking about happiness
Ah,
because I just got a screaming deal on a really great cashmere sweater.
I feel your happiness.
I'm so happy for you stealing my happiness now. This is a killer sweater. It's great. But other than that's okay. That's my frivolity. And I also have had just a week of unbelievable health issues that are bewildering and peculiar, and things are sort of starting to get straightened out again. And I just have to go on a different tack. And my doctors are always out of the country whenever I really have a problem. But whatever. So I'm feeling grateful for that. That's a sort of happiness. I think when you're a child, there's a kind of unconscious happiness that happens when you're skipping through the sprinkler and watching things glitter and gleam and sitting under the Christmas tree with the
Playing with the puppy.
no matter what, playing with the puppy and falling backwards. I've climbed up on our tennis court fence once and fell and landed completely upside down in a snowdrift and got a headache that wouldn't quit. But it was wonderful, that kind of innocent stuff. As you get older, I think having knowledge of a job well done, no matter what it is being able to complete tasks and have them be as you hoped they would be. I think we get a little carried away with happiness. And I don't want it to be a constant. I like the contrasts. I don't like being miserable and I don't like being sick, but handling things in a sensible way as you get older and not falling apart.
Sort of having a peaceful core.
Yeah, having a peaceful core and listening to you guys on Thursdays and yeah, it really seriously. I mean, I really look forward to it.
oh, thank you.
Nice.
So anyway,
Yeah, I was thinking about my happiness, and I was, meditating in yoga this morning about it, and I noticed that one of the things that makes me happy is collaborating with other people.
Uh-huh.
I'm an artist. I spend a lot of time in the studio right now, kind of alone, isolated, and although I have a sense of accomplishment with what I'm making, I don't have that same feeling in my body of happiness, joy, play that I have,
sharing.
Yeah, that interaction that you have with other people. So
why are you alone? I mean, is it because of a certain thing you're working on, or is it just that?
part of it is my location. I'm kind of in a somewhat isolated location, way on the top of a mountain. You have to drive 2 miles up the mountain to get to me, or for me to get down. And part of it is it's just solitary work. Yeah.
I like that, though. I'd make that into a meditation. Mm-hmm. I enjoy it. But I do understand. I see what you're saying, that every once in a while it's really good to bump up against like-minded types and have a sharing of good information, because that's what teaching is all about, and what living the life is all about. And I think though, to get a little bit, that it is a choice. Happiness. I mean, I know an awful lot of, well, not an awful lot, but some people that just seem so dreary to me. In their everything's a little bit wrong.
Eeyore.
Fix it, Eeyore. Right. Except Eeyore wasn't really a complainer. He just was gloomy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that I think there's great lessons to be learned by. Maybe it's because his tail was tacked on. I don't know.
But can you be sort of taciturn and happy? Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
my father was that way.
Yeah, mine was too.
My dad was very quite. He never really spoke very much. He was very insular. He had but he was nuts about his wife. His second wife, not my mother, who tormented him, and he had he didn't say much, but when he did, it was usually about his son, my half brother, and he lit up, he lit up, and also about his wife. He lit up, but for a moment, and that you could see there was happiness, even though he might have seemed like a person who was, I don't know, broody.
So it wasn't a superficial happiness that
no
that is ingrained in Americans to
no, this
public.
is deep, because this is born of just adoration, and I think he knew how lucky he was.
Mm-hmm.
I really do.
Great thing to know. Yeah. That's a wonderful place to get to.
Right, when you can really recognize.
But on the other hand, he could be really not that nice. Kind of fussy. Like he was almost like he didn't want that quietude to be bothered by someone like me asking him a question or something. Well. So it's interesting. I think people are complex. I mean, that's not a great revelation. It just is. And I think that part of happiness, and I am Jewish. I'm not the most religious gal on the planet here. Nor am I the most educated in my own religion or even my own culture. But there is something about the bittersweet. There's something about sorrow and gratitude.
Oh, I think you're talking about Brazil, saudade.
Yes.
Especially at this time of year.
Sure, exactly.
This is a melancholy time of year.
Exactly.
Although it's been really, really dry here. And the other day, my daughter that I live with and I were going to go to Tacoma, which is south of here, to get lumber to build our raised beds in our backyard, which needs some attending to. And I felt just awful. I mean, I felt physically really hideous. But I didn't want to stay home and feel hideous. I wanted to go and, have the things going by the car window and just be, distracted. And the colors of the trees this year are unbelievable. It's been very dry. So there's a lot of red and a lot of orange and a lot of brilliant yellow. And the sky was this corny blue, just ectochrome, wonderful blue. And I thought, I will look. I will look for the bright spot. I will try to find it because otherwise
it's a little stab in the heart, isn't it? That what you're describing is that I feel that. Yeah. That is the essence to me of the bittersweet. There's something about that. And it's, I don't know exactly. I mean, for me, I know what it is. It's directly tied to a nostalgia for the place I grew up till I was 11, which is Connecticut. And this is a very heavy thing this time of year, where you smell the trees, you smell the air, you feel the heavy air starting to turn cold, and you see the leaves changing. And then Halloween is coming, and it's nostalgic, and it's also depending on, for me, my own personal experience, this is a little depressing, but it's also it's also so rich. It's so rich.
Yes. Yes, it definitely is.
So we're talking about social interaction, family, and connection to nature, appreciation of how fortunate one is.
But it's
satisfaction.
It's even more subtle than that, right? It's like it's the slant of the light. There's something,
right.
and I feel this way about. I was thinking about happiness and the senses and perception. So how hearing. Well, like I just saw a film called If Beale Street Could Talk. It was showed at the film festival. I think it premiered there at the Mill Valley Film Festival. And it's from a book by James Baldwin about a couple.
What's the title?
If Beale Street Could Talk.
Okay.
It's a very deeply romantic film. It has a heavy social justice issue in it. It's about an African-American couple in the 70s, a beautiful young couple. And literally the opening shot of the film had a couple of sort of chord changes, the soundtrack. And then the shot was from above, and it seemed like it was autumn. And I just started to cry immediately. For opening shot had me, and it. So there's something about the emotional aspect of sound, of the sound of music, or the colors of a painting.
Perception of beauty.
Yeah, and that can make. So that's what I mean by you could be so fulfilled, and arguably that's happiness. And you can also feel sad.
Don't you think that at this, for the autumnal aspect of it, we know that it's fleeting. We know that it's not going to last. We know that it will turn into winter, and then it will be spring, and then it will be, where the seasons will progress. But it's almost like we need the release of crying, of sadness, to help us bear it, because time is going by, and I don't know. I've spent a lot of time in tears in the last couple of weeks, partly because of changing medications and stuff like that. But I think there's a good place for it. I think it's not it's not hopeless and helpless and oh God, I can't go on. It's
I had a really intense experience one time with happiness. It hit me so hard and so deep that I just started bawling. And
that's beautiful.
I couldn't contain it.
Tears of something else. It's not joy. It's I don't know. I think it's a very important release. The business of sadness, especially if I'm a New Englander too, and I this stiff upper lip stuff and stoicism and all the rest of it can really eat you alive. It's a good idea to let it fly a little bit.
Yeah.
And so a belly laugh or a sobbing or.
That's why a good funeral always feels good.
Yep.
Yeah, I was thinking about this also. That what did you just say? A good funeral.
Yeah. That release of.
That's cathartic.
Yeah, cathartic.
We're talking
release.
About catharsis.
So how deep sadness can become a happiness in itself,
well, it's
or
a
joy in
thing
itself.
too.
Yeah.
I mean, the deeper you go, the higher you go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about how happiness, and I was saying I use it as a guidepost for the work I choose, but it's sort of like it's a guidepost for your dharma, like who you're meant to be in this world. If you can kind of tap into, wow, I'm smiling right now while I'm engaged in whatever it is I'm doing in that moment. Noticing those moments that happen and then finding a way to bring more of that into your life, can be a really, really great guidepost.
Yeah.
Well, to that point,
subject, definitely interesting subject.
I was reading about Camus writing about the myth of Sisyphus, and he does advocate.
Sisyphus is the guy pushing the thing up the hill.
Yeah, pushing the rock up the hill and then going back down. The image of Sisyphus straining, fully alive and happy.
He's feeling good and productive.
I mean, yeah, it's interesting, sort of straining to move forward and upward. I mean, it's very interesting.
And then
saying yes to life, so to speak.
Camus, not the happiest guy in his writings, anyway. Albert.
I know, but he's sort of from.
So it's
moving from skepticism and nihilism to advocating an approach to life that's, I don't know. It's just interesting to say that I've never interpreted Sisyphus as a happy,
as a happy thing,
fella.
Well, maybe it's suggesting, hey, let's find happiness in the work we're doing, whatever we're doing, because the boulder's going to go right back down the hill, and we're going to have to start over. But let's enjoy this
it's job security.
I mean, if they made a film about the myth of Sisyphus starring Gene Kelly, come on.
That's an interesting idea. That's a great idea.
Hey, rolling the rock up the hill.
Or Bojangles Robinson.
Yeah, well, I know. I'm going to pitch the idea. We just don't really. Who's our Gene Kelly? Anyway.
Well, so the old Socratic Stoic word, the Greek word for happiness, or it's been translated as happiness anyway, was eudaimonia, which was really all about a life worth living. So I guess if Sisyphus felt he was doing something worthwhile.
Yeah.
You can define your own terms.
Yeah.
You can. You don't have to let other people do it for you. I mean, I think that's another thing we fall into, especially looking around Seattle, and it's getting so yuppified and
yeah.
I don't know, it's just
It's changed a lot.
Yep, it's changed terribly, not for the better.
Thank you, Amazon.
or it just occurred to me, sometimes parents. They want happiness for their children, and they imagine what's going to create that happiness, and so they steer their kids in directions that maybe aren't appropriate for those.
Oh boy!
And give them a certificate of participation.
Right. We're all winners.
I drew a picture the other day, which would be a great New Yorker cover. It's this graveyard, and every single gravestone is a certificate of participation.
Oh,
on and on and on and on. I kept working on it.
Yeah. Well, that's what a gravestone is, I guess, really, isn't it?
I guess it is.
You got, yeah.
Nice.
Anyway, have a wonderful day, you guys, and stay well
and happy.
You too.
And I shall continue on my chosen path of happiness.
All right.
Excellent. Thank you, MK. Thanks for calling.
Thanks for calling. Bye-bye.
Yes, a life worth living. Do call, won't you? 415-663-8492. Give us your thoughts about happiness. Are you happy? Let's just start with the simple thing.
Yeah.
And
what
makes
keys?
you happy?
Yeah.
What do you find makes you happy in your life? And what does happiness mean, really?
Oh, gosh,
there are so many variations on happiness.
It would make me so happy if 5 more people called in and shared their thoughts on happiness.
Call now. Call before 11:30. So how about religious? You brought up, Sally, you brought up religion earlier, and a lot of the promises of religion are about how happy it makes you. Although Christians don't think you're going to be happy until the afterlife when you spend eternity happy with God.
And Jews believe that heaven is here on earth, so it's sort of like make hay while the sun shines.
And the happiness, the joy is in service to your God, whatever, right? I mean, that's part of the Christian Jewish thing.
I mean, I think that we should be in service to people who need help.
And then, of course, there's
that's
the Buddhist, seeking bliss in whatever you do.
Yeah, in the mundane, it's just the being. I don't know if it's about
by relinquishing cravings.
Is it?
Well, yeah, it's it's simplifying things, right? It's boiling
is nirvana
everything down to the
happiness? Like, what is happiness? So is there a definition? Do you have a definition of the word happy or happiness?
I do.
I mean,
Let me just find that.
Because Sometimes I think I'm confusing happiness with some other thing.
Well, so
like joy, ecstasy.
Well, I think that's all part
or
of happiness.
Under the umbrella.
being like fulfilled in a way that isn't. I don't know.
Well,
you're peaceful. You're grounded. You know who you are.
I
you're
just ate a lot of
confident.
food, and I'm no longer starving. That's really what I think. Like sometimes
meeting
I
your
think
basic needs.
when I'm
So this is just Wikipedia. It's the subject of debate on usage and meaning, because there's a whole study now that since the 80s, early 2000s, I guess, psychologists have actually been studying happiness and the happiness, world happiness quotient and all that sort of stuff. But so here, differences in understanding by culture, apart from anything else. Current experience, including the feeling of an affect such as pleasure or joy. Appraisal of life satisfaction, such as quality of life, and that's usually what they take to be happiness when psychologists are studying happiness or trying to find out the level of happiness in their subjects, is about a subjective feeling about your own life, whether it's worthwhile, whether you're living a worthwhile life. Well-being, which is life satisfaction. Eudaimonia, which is sometimes translated as flourishing.
Thriving, perhaps.
Thriving.
We do have a caller.
It's me.
Caller. Oh, it's MK.
One of my favorite definitions is the definition of nirvana, which is the balancing point between fear and desire.
Ooh.
Think about it.
Yeah.
I'm teetering.
Interesting.
It's all for me. Nirvana is
constant. It's a constant.
Constant
balance.
Cashmere
balance
sweater.
act.
Yeah, it's all about the cashmere sweater acquisitions for me and for you, apparently.
That too. There's a definite bright
Treasure hunting.
Finding out that my blood is still coursing through my body.
That's
That's
interesting, though.
Anyway.
I was thinking about that too, MK, about nirvana versus happiness, and what is that? So thank you.
I think the happiness is sort of like I don't know, the Cheshire Cat smile up in the tree, but the balancing is something you have to work at. That's the thing I like about it. Is you can't get complacent. You gotta stay on top of it and watch it.
Don't take it for granted.
Don't take it for granted.
Yeah.
And really embrace it when it's good.
Well, thank you for that.
People, talk to you later.
Thanks
Thank
for that
you,
caveat.
Bye-bye. You are listening to Let's Talk Call-In Radio on KWMR Point Reyes Station. KWMR is supported by our listener members and by Ken and Sam Levin Window Cleaning, helping West Marin, the San Geronimo Valley, and the North Bay see clearly for more than 25 years. Additional services include clearing gutters and downspouts, as well as cleaning solar panels. They make house calls and can be reached at 415-663-9669. That's 415-663-9669. KWMR is supported by Osmosis Day Spa Sanctuary, offering massages, organic facials, and the Japanese cedar enzyme bath. Osmosis is located near the Sonoma coast, just up Highway 1, and features 5 acres of gardens, as well as local and organic meals. The spa menu, online booking, and info about the surrounding area can be found at osmosis.com. Support for KWMR is provided by our listener members and by West Marin Community Services, providing programs to support the community, including a food pantry and an event rental library, emergency financial assistance, the Water Dog Swimming Program, a holiday food and gifts program, tax prep day, Latino engagement programs, and more. Information at 415-663-8361 or online at westmarincommunityservices.org. And we're talking about happiness today, and we'd love for you to call in and share What makes you happy? How do you cultivate happiness in your life? Please call 415-663-8492.
So,
Yes.
Nietzsche.
Out of chaos comes
Nietzsche
order.
wants us to consider the value of what is difficult, what can only be earned through struggle, difficulty, pain, and thus come to see the affirmative value suffering and unhappiness truly play in creating everything of great worth in life, including all the highest achievements of human culture, not least of all philosophy. So happiness through striving. Oof. I don't know. The utilitarians always went, the Brits, the Bentham and John Stuart Mill, those guys, greatest happiness principle as a guide for ethical behavior. The more people are happy with what you do, the more proper that would be, the more right that would be. I don't know. Happiness through struggle?
I do feel like when someone sends me an email or calls and says, "Oh, I loved your show," and that made them happy, it makes me feel so good. It makes me happy to be appreciated, or to have my efforts appreciate especially creative efforts that involve this choice, this sort of a choice in what I could be doing, and then knowing that it really worked for somebody else and rocked their boat in a good way. So I would say that's incredibly gratifying.
Yeah,
Right.
I was thinking about that too, the idea of really feeling seen for your best self and what you have to offer.
So 415-663-8492, 663-8492. That's the number to call to join the conversation here on Let's Talk.
So you're saying that happiness can't really be achieved except by, other than sort of laughing at a joke or something, but it's about something that you work for or effort that you put into something that you are doing with your life that you think is worthwhile, and you feel gratified when people appreciate it or when the job is well done. That's I think there's also the sense of well-being that comes from that.
I think kind of on the other side of that is, what do you let go of in your life? How do you clear space for more happiness?
Well, so I guess there's a danger if you could get addicted to happiness, couldn't you?
Well,
isn't that what addiction is? It's triggering the happiness triggers in your brain.
This makes me think of behavior and I don't think it's addictive, because I think it's a brain chemistry issue, which is bipolar disorder, where people really enjoy, from what I have heard, that there's this real enjoyment of the manic realm, the manic spectrum, and so because you feel really happy and energized.
It feels good.
Feels really good. Is that the same as being happy? Okay.
Part of it. We do have a caller. Caller, you're on the line. What's your name?
Okay, I'm here at the Keith, and I've just been having a week of complete, total happiness and a week of total crap, and I think that it has a lot to do with what happened. One week I'm going out and having a great time, and the light is shining on me, and I'm going to the Whole Earth 50th, and I'm going to Hardly Strictly Bluegrass, and listening to music and drawing, and I couldn't be more happy, and people are really loving what I do, and that's a big thing, I think, of getting a response from people. Also, music and art, if you relate, it really makes me happy. But then you have another weekend, it's outside circumstances, and things are really crappy, like your bright sky car is broken, and, you can't get a rental, and, it goes on like that, and it makes you sad.
It's frustrating.
I think it's really simple.
The seesaw of life.
Right?
Right.
Sometimes the light's all shining on me, and other times I can barely see.
Yeah. Oh, song lyrics. But yeah, that's that sort of continuum, the yin yang, that in order to recognize our happiness, we have to suffer sometimes and go through other experiences so that we can really value when we're in that happy place.
I always value it. I don't really think I should have to do the other stuff. I'm not for that.
Well, I think it's just about how it helps us really identify when we are experiencing that happiness because we know what the other is like.
If you need that, that's okay, but I'm good.
So you would be
being happy.
I didn't catch your name.
Vikisa.
Oh, okay.
So you would be okay with just being happy all the time.
I would love it, and I think I would just. The week that I was happy, I'm just going to tell you this one last thing. When I was really having this great experience and, of feeling the love, and I was driving home from the city, and I was thinking, man, this is just amazing. People are being so nice. Things are so great. And I thought, I'm a nice person. I deserve this. Everybody deserves this. It's all good. I think it would be good if everybody was happy.
Yeah.
Kind of like Burning Man. Anyway, that's all I've got.
Well, there's, of course, the downside there would be I would not be happy driving back from the city, for example. That would be a downer for me. But after being so happy,
somewhere, do something, No, and that after that, it's just you think about everything.
Yeah. Well, that's
I
lovely.
guess.
Anyway, I'm onwards and sideways towards this difficult week.
Well, good luck with that. Cultivate some happiness for yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Vikisa.
Vicky.
Forward to it.
Thanks for calling. Bye-bye.
Do call, won't you? 415-663-8492. We're just discussing happiness in all its forms. There you go. There's someone who would be happy being happy all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if you were avoiding anything that was unpleasant. What kind of life would that be? I'm not sure that there would be enough. Would you stay sane?
Yes, I think the variations engender that soulfulness.
It seems like you'd have to avoid anything unpleasant. You'd have to shut yourself in a room.
No, it
how would that be happy?
I feel it's impossible.
Oh.
It's not achievable.
Complete happiness is not achievable.
No, it isn't.
Well, there goes Buddha.
End of story.
Damn it.
Well, but I think there is a certain component of it that is that I think we can actively work on how we talk to ourselves, how we process what we're experiencing, and we can talk ourselves into finding a way to see the good in it or to flip it in some way. For example, driving back from the city, it's a long drive, and once I hit those windy roads, I'm like, wow, I'm so grateful that I have this long drive, but it's on this beautiful road. Mm-hmm. I came from Southern California, so I had a daily commute that was not pleasant. It wasn't attractive,
Yeah, and probably stop and go.
Yeah, the whole experience not good. And now I just can really embrace and enjoy my drives.
Yeah, I love
agree.
driving out here. I do not enjoy traffic. That's just how that goes. But
to the point of can you be happy all the time? I mean, it's true that you can bring joy into your life by certain things, doing certain things or not, and it's all hinging around not taking things for granted. And I think that is a spiritual or, a kind of soulful spiritual practice. But we get overwhelmed. We forget that. We can arrive back at it. We can come back to it. And there's an ebb and a flow.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a use for being uncomfortable, which might also engender the opposite of happiness.
Because
if you're unhappy and uncomfortable, and if you get uncomfortable enough in a situation, then that then change.
You want to change it.
The change
you want to make
is
change.
coming.
Happiness, feeling happy with yourself and around other people is a huge industry, the self-help industry. That's what it's all about, basically, right? You can be happy too. And, it made Oprah.
Well, we do sometimes put roadblocks in our own way, roadblocks to our own happiness when we think there's no choice here. I have to just live with things the way they are, kind of giving up, throwing up the hands. I think when we can sort of start to recognize when we're miserable and tell ourselves it is possible to live differently, to do something different here that might increase my level of happiness.
And that can happen in so many ways and through connection. So I think that if you do try to be happy all the time by isolating yourself, even with another person or with your family, invariably there will be, I'm not saying you'll become unhappy, but there will be difficulty, there will be challenge, there will be things to deal with that you just simply cannot see coming down the pike. And that is the nature of life.
Well, so that makes me think of the Western attitudes about marriage. That marriage, you're going to be happily married, right? That's the phrase, happily married. Are you happily married? Well, there's going to be times when you just don't get on with each other. No one can make someone else happy all the time, right? I mean, how can two people,
there's the thing right
two
there.
different minds
you
living
make
together?
me happy. That is a presumption.
Right. I see. Yeah, that was the wrong choice of words. But
but I mean, it's a belief.
Yeah, and is that why there are so many divorces, or why people aren't getting married anymore so much? There's a definite drop in marriage rates among younger folks.
I just think people can be together and not necessarily be married.
Right. But, so divorce rates. It was an unhappy marriage. Oh, really? So
I guess, happily married, if you include those ups and downs, the great days and the difficult days, I think happily comes with the balance in all of that. Right. If you feel like you're with a partner who you can work with, that you can work through things with, that can be a source of happiness, whether it's a happy day or not,
Who wants to live with a clone of themselves, for example?
Well, also,
you
this
learn
brings
from
up
each other
a question for me. So the nature of happiness, if you're in a marriage and it's a happy marriage, what does that mean? Right, Shelley? So if you extrapolate, there's a sort of mythology of they lived happily ever after. There's which is heavily perpetrated by Hollywood, old Hollywood. There's that I believe is perpetrating an image of eternal youth or something, where you have a kind of happiness that's naive. So a happy marriage really is one where any relationship in which people are intertwined intimately, you have to give people the space to and have the respect or the belief that they can be somewhat autonomous and work things out for themselves while you provide support. So it's not always about being in a state of ecstasy. And I think that's a problem because I think that's this whole thing of acquisition. And we built a 10,000 square foot mansion. All this stuff is distraction, whatever those efforts may be. So I think that it's about being with the people, being together with someone, going through difficulty. It depends on what the difficulty is. If someone is being a real jerk, your partner is berating you, controlling you, hurting you physically or psychologically, this is not a good thing. But if someone's going through problems, then you support them and help them. And or if you have a fight or disagreement, how do you handle it? So it's just going to happen. Yeah.
Sorry, I think that happiness can become like the guidepost, so that if you are able to recognize what kind of brings you a state of happiness, and then you can also recognize when it's not showing up, and you can make a choice. Like we were talking about, do I need to make a change here? And maybe it's just a matter of I need to talk about something with someone that's difficult to do, but I need to do it in order to have a full relationship with another human being.
Then there's the acquisition of property that's supposed to be the American dream. You get rich, and the richer you are, the happier you are. Although there was actually, I haven't got the study, but there was a study done a few years ago where they found what the limit is.
What a cap, the happiness cap.
Yeah, I mean, when you get to, I don't know what it would be in today's dollars. I think it was something like $20,000 a year. This was 20 years ago. You get to a level and you think, wow, this is great. I'm making 20 grand a year. And above that, it'll just kind of drops. It doesn't really matter. I mean, if wealth,
it's not an impact on your happiness.
Wealth or prosperity or property were a guide for happiness, then Jeff Bezos must be the happiest man in the world. Do you think he is?
Not right now.
Because he just lost some. He just lost some money. Pursuing happiness may actually make you unhappy. This is from psychologists here. Groundbreaking work by Iris Mouse has recently supported the counterintuitive idea that striving for happiness may actually cause more harm than good. The more you pursue it, the less they seem able to obtain it.
I guess, that's if you are avoiding dealing with the difficult emotions and only, going after happiness in a way of, blocking those difficult emotions. Yeah, I could see that would be a problem.
4 ways happiness can hurt you. See, it's interesting.
415-663-8492. If you want to
give us a call.
Join.
Yeah.
If you want to.
The key to happiness. What is it?
Chime in on this.
How about the happiness gained through Schadenfreude, where you take joy in someone else's misfortune?
That's like slapstick comedy.
I had that question written down. Is happiness rueful?
Oh, rueful. There's a word. That's
sort of like what you're saying, Schadenfreude, that sort of glee in some.
You're doing
revenge,
better and somebody's doing
revenge
less.
happiness.
Ooh, yeah.
I feel like that's definitely happening in our government. Definitely. Yes.
Well, should something happen to certain people, would you be happy about it? I mean,
I'd dance on some graves in a red dress.
I'll join you.
And a new cashmere sweater.
I'll wear magenta. We'll look fabulous.
But there are so many ways to achieve happiness, or to make yourself happy for a while. Call us. Why don't you give us a call in the last few minutes here? 415-663-8492. What has given you the greatest happiness in your life? If people are going to say family, I'm guessing.
Family. It makes me really happy to watch a flock of pelicans flying.
Yes.
I just get giddy when I see that.
Sweet.
Driving through Marshall yesterday, there was a flock of white pelicans that come into the cove there every so often. It was lovely to see them again. It was wonderful. Yes, that made me feel good.
Yeah, or if you get the chance to see like a whole flock of blackbirds just flying in unison every which way, and it's just...
I like to see my kids happy. If they're happy, I feel very happy.
Yes.
If they're struggling, my heart breaks.
Yeah.
So there's that empathic.
And they're never happy
feeling.
all the time. How could anyone be?
No.
Except unless you're listening to music all the time and having a good time, as Vicky said.
I think, a lot of it is what goes on in our mind, how we process our experiences. And maybe some people have more ease, like Vikisa was saying, she just processes in such a way that everything that happens makes her feel good and happy. So,
But has she arrived? So I wanted to ask her, has she always been that way? Or is this a sort of a place where she has arrived?
Like she developed
At least,
it.
And she's arrived there for now. Because honestly, things change. Not to be rueful, not to say I hope something happens one way or the other, particularly in the negative realm, but you know what I mean. Life throws you ye old curveballs. So it's like surfing or something. It's like surfing the waves.
Well, yeah, and being able to ride those curveball waves, with ease. I think there's a certain happiness with that you've gotten to a place where when that difficult stuff comes up, you can find a way to address it that isn't nearly as painful as maybe it used to be.
Is happiness it's bound to be... I mean, I'm going back to the money thing again, I guess, because I just read this. Happy people make more money and are more productive at work, but that could also be the other way around. You could flip all these. These are psychological findings, by the way. Here you go. I'll give you the list. Happiness is good for our health. Happy people are less likely to get sick and they live longer. Happiness is good for our relationships. They're more likely to get married and have fulfilling marriages, and they have more friends. Happy people make more money, more productive at work. They're more generous. They cope better with stress and trauma and are more creative and better able to see the big picture, whatever that means. But I think you can flip that whole list and say healthy people who aren't sick are happier than people who are sick. And people who are in good marriages, fulfilling marriages, are happier than people who are not in fulfilling marriages. And people who have work that they want to be productive at are happier than people who are forced to take any job they can.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. Take any job you can for crust. That
poverty is not a happy state. You can we know because we keep hearing stories of people who live in terrible abject poverty and yet maintain moments of joy throughout.
Right. And so, I think for your own sanity, your own well-being, that if you find yourself in a really down and out place, to be able to find a way to cultivate happiness for yourself, to connect with nature, connect with hearing some beautiful music, seeing beautiful sights, smelling beautiful smells, like you were talking about the senses, and how much happiness we can derive from that.
Tough to do if you're on the street, though, if you're sleeping under a bridge. But
yeah. Well, but what, it might be tough, but you kind of need to be able to reach in and find something. Grab
what joy you can out of just being alive.
Well, I think, I don't know, I thinking about that, and I'm thinking about head trauma and football players who have suffered head trauma. Something sparked when you said people who are living on the streets. So if you have an affliction born of some kind of physical and emotional or emotional trauma, you can't. I mean,
you can't really cultivate.
With your brain is damaged.
Yeah,
you're tormented. You hear these football players who are very damaged physically that say that they're in torment, and
wow.
And so that's an impedance.
Hard to feel happy when your body isn't working right, when your mind isn't working right. You can't function normally in society in some way. That could really.
But then
make it difficult.
The old hermit back there living up in a cave on top of a mountain, divorcing himself from society and just seeking bliss. I mean,
no one can hurt your feelings.
I knew a yoga teacher who sadly died. She was quite young of breast cancer, and she seemed happy, although she was struggling and dying. She was one of the most beautiful people I've ever encountered, and she was generous.
There you are. There you are, generosity of spirit. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for calling in. This has been Let's Talk. I want to thank all the listeners and callers. Tune in every Thursday at 11. Your voice is what matters here, not ours. KWMR does not take a stand on any of the issues discussed on Let's Talk. Opinions expressed on this program are those of the hosts and callers and don't necessarily reflect the views of KWMR, its board of directors, underwriters, or members. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Shelley. Thank you, Sally.
Thank you, Paul.
We'll
and callers.
Be back next week.
All right.